My name is Eric Howard. I'm the director of the Environment and Energy Technology Council. The Tech Council is working together with the Climate Tech Incubator at Northeastern University and the Governor's Energy Office here in Maine to promote economic development around the state that will help the state achieve a variety of goals, whether it be economic development, jobs, as well as decarbonization. Today, we have as our guest the Chief Executive Officer of Blue Marble Geographics, Patrick Cunningham, who's based up in Hallowell. He has been the CEO of the company for about 20 years, having taken over from the founder, and growing the company from about 10 employees in 2004 to close to 60 today. They've gotten funding over the past from the Maine Technology Institute, which is one of the Tech Council's sponsors. We have over 200 members, and several of them step forward each year to help sponsor our programs. This year's sponsors include Eaton Peabody, the Maine Technology Institute, Maine Biz, which has been a long-term supporter of the Tech Council and economic development in Maine. Also TRC, a engineering company, and Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships. For this event and others, we're doing a long-term series with Northeastern University's RU Institute. You may know they're based in Portland right now in space on the waterfront. And moving to the former baked bean factory over by the Bayside neighborhood, just across the river, and Back Cove. The groundbreaking was about a month and a half ago, and several E2Tech members are actively involved in building that. I think it's $200 million facility. Which is going to be amazing, providing all sorts of educational opportunities and business development opportunities for people in Maine and people from away from Maine who want to be part of our community. The E2 Tech Council, again, we're the largest community for the environmental and energy professional community here in Maine. We serve more than 4,000 people. We've got more than 50 different partner organizations. We are a membership-based nonprofit organization, and we welcome people who would like to be part of our community in a formal way, but our programs are all open to the public, and so we're pleased to have you with us today. And again, our speaker today is Patrick, and I will pass it on to him so he can talk a little bit about his company, how it's evolved, and the technologies that they're using, including ones that have direct application to artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer software, because that's a interesting part of what the RU Institute and the state of Maine are doing in terms of the future of the green economy.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Eric. I will see if I can share my slide deck here. Does that look right to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to meet with you folks today and share a little bit about what Blue Marble Geographics is doing around artificial intelligence, specifically machine learning and deep learning. I thought it would be good to give you a little bit more background on Blue Marble as a company, and then sort of the high level of how GIS and how Global Mapper works, and then how GIS has found its way into machine learning and the like. Hopefully you'll find it interesting and applicable to your interests. And if there's any questions at the end, I'm happy to do my best to answer them. So yeah, I'll just get started. So Blue Marble has been around actually for 30 years as a software company. It was founded by Jeffrey Cole, who was a UMaine graduate, and worked at Delorme Mapping for a number of years, if you remember Delorme Mapping. And he grew the company out of his garage, just similar to many software companies. The difference being it was in Maine, and I came along in 2003 to take over day-to-day management for him. And in 2004, he came into my office, and well, it was before that, but he said he wanted to step back and slow down. And so we sold the company to private investor, and I took over in 2004. And it's just been a great ride the whole way. GIS and software is it's so interesting and always evolving. And it just, our user base is all over the world, and our customers, we hear from every country in the world almost, and it's always something new and exciting. So it's really been a great place to work. And a big part of what Blue Marble is are the people. We're about half of these folks are software developers. Everyone is a technologist of some sort or another, whether they're in sales or marketing or tech support or product management. And most of us are here in Maine today. We do have some remote employees across the country, but we've really tried to do our best to stay a Maine software company and to grow from there. And we've been able to do that, so it's been really great. So Global Mapper is the product suite that I'm going to talk about with regards to our machine learning and deep learning tools. We do have a whole other suite focused on coordinate conversion and coordinate transformation. So coordinate systems are the basis of mapping referencing. It's kind of the math underneath the hood. And that was the first product suite that Jeff introduced to the market back in 1993. When we grew after a while, we were able to acquire another company called Global Mapper in 2011. And Global Mapper really complemented what we do in GIS, which is really kind of the hard stuff. So, it's not just about making pretty maps and displaying maps, but it's about the analysis, accurate analysis, being able to provide a suite of tools for surveyors and engineers and technologists that need to do really, in-depth GIS analysis. So that's kind of our niche. You can see GIS in use all over the place today, whether it's for parcel mapping or just for driving directions or whatever. We do all of that, but we also do a lot of the more intricate and taxing kind of analyses. So that's kind of our unique area. And so this bullet list is some of the key tools that you can find in Global Mapper, and it includes, all the data creation tools you would need for making a map, support for over 300 formats. There's a lot of different formats in mapping software. So it gives us a lot of interoperability, which is really important. Any type of data, and then terrain analysis and 3D analysis. So terrain analysis is really that foundation of making a accurate 3D map. You have to have a reference terrain model, and then from there you can do so much, and you can see that in a lot of what I'm going to show you today, but also you see that in gaming, and you see that in simulators and all kinds of other areas today. Mapping has evolved so much. And then, we have a suite of complex tools called Global Mapper Pro, and we also have drone and UAV imagery processing tools that we call our pixels to points tool. So you can collect overlapping images with a drone and bring them into our software and create a terrain model, an ortho image, a 3D point cloud. So a lot of powerful stuff that we can do. But a word on GIS and how we got to some of these powerful tools today. As you know, like maps have traditionally been 2D, kind of top-down things that we look at on paper, or a flat representation of a round globe, a round object, right? So tax maps, land usage maps. A lot of maps are very like plain vanilla. They provide a lot of important analyses, but that foundation for GIS, it's all about, location analysis and where are things in regards to a certain location, whether it's a disease outbreak or where should I place, my Starbucks, or whatever you can think of. A lot of that is done in 2D traditionally, but today, with the advent of technology and really an important piece of mapping technology, LiDAR, a lot of what people are doing is presenting it in the 3D realm. And you can see that on your phone if you're using Google Maps. Just a few years ago, suddenly you could see 3D and terrain views on your Google Maps phone. That's been coming for a long time, but professional GIS folks, it's a requirement now. We have to do a 3D rendering. We have to do an immersive kind of mapping rendering. And this came about in large part due to the advent of LiDAR data about 15, 16 years ago. Well, it's a little older than that, but that's when it became widely available in software. And with LiDAR, you're collecting a point cloud with laser, and it's a really rich data set. And it actually, traditional LiDAR can, the point can penetrate anything that's permeable. So you get multiple points in your 3D point cloud. So you can create a depth to that point cloud. And from there, you can do so much as far as making a map and analysis, right? So this is a point cloud that I'm showing you right here. The next step of that is, well, I want to extract features from that point cloud. So because you have height, because you have multiple points, multiple returns in different areas, you can start to extract things from the LiDAR. So here we've denoted the buildings, they're orange. We've got the ground, that's brown. We have vegetation, it's green. And you can do much more than that. But the point is that it's very easy to create 3D data and object types now with LiDAR and other similar data sets. And GIS is doing so much with that, and has grown so much from that. So the next step after you've extracted information is to try to make a vector or 3D geometry of that, whether it's a building or a tree or what have you. And this has grown into doing this from imagery. So we can now today extract information from just a picture that we couldn't do even just a few years ago. And it's really, really powerful stuff. And that has kind of led us as a GIS software development company to the next level, which is machine learning and deep learning techniques to train the software to create to extract more information automatically from data, whether it's LiDAR or imagery. It saves time, it's faster to market, faster to deliverable for whatever it is you're doing. Whereas historically, this has been something that would have to be done manually. So if you can imagine, if you're trying to analyze a data set for various vegetation, and you have to manually, circle that object, create, a new layer, and go. Even this picture right here, I'm showing it. It just takes so long. So machine learning and deep learning techniques are awesome in that they get the end user to the deliverable much faster, and not 100%. It's not 100%, but the deliverable can be fairly close to that. It can be 80-20, and that saves you even some portion of your project delivery time, right? So that's the historical background, the practical side of all this stuff. For us, for Global Mapper and Blue Marble Geographics, we're doing kind of three different types of learning tools, AI, if you will. The first one is machine learning, extracting information from point clouds. So our first set of tools leverages machine learning techniques to allow for more accurate identification of objects in a point cloud. And this is a really interesting tool in that the user can create the model themselves from the beginning and then train it as they process the data. It's a flexible way to classify data from a variety of sources, and thus the user, using that kind of custom training approach, they have a lot of control over what they're doing. So the basis for this for us is a technique called geometric segmentation, which is, I'm going to start throwing some big words around, but it's basically spectral partitioning of a geometric segmentation of a point cloud. So you may have seen some of this with like some of the Google tools that are out there now, where you can segment images or what have you. This is just applying some of those techniques to point clouds. And what it does is it identifies specific features in the point cloud, and then these segments are created based on a variety of statistics, point cloud statistics and attributes like intensity and color, and some other values. And then you use semantic segmentation, which is this step kind of gives meaning or name to those identified segments that you just were working on. And built-in classes can have parameters or fingerprints where we expect to represent those features in the various things we're trying to find. And it also uses some maximum likelihood techniques. And the short of it is that this is a really easy way to kind of see it, is that you're doing custom training and classification. You're telling the software what you want to look for. So in this, the built-in classification image there is showing a point cloud that has, you can see there are airplanes there. They're grayed out. They're grayed out right now because they're not identified as anything. In this process, the user would go through and identify those points as airplane, and then teach the software to go and look for more of them over, as you're processing. And you can tweak the results after you run it. And it's just very useful to quickly analyze your point cloud for what you're looking for, if you will. And so this is our machine learning technique that we have working with point cloud data. For imagery, that's in our Insight and Learning Engine, which is a part of our Global Mapper Pro offering. Right now, it's available in beta. We just released it this fall. So this is where we're using deep learning techniques to work on imagery. And the Insight and Learning Engine is powered by, high-res imagery. Deep learning techniques can give the user the ability to accurately conduct a variety of imagery analyses, but only a few set ones. We hope to expand that over time. But we have kind of three main things that we can do right now with deep learning. So we can do land cover analysis, and we can do building and vehicle extraction or detection, as it were. So we have deep learning models that we provide out of the box, and the user has to have high resolution imagery. So we're talking about, 1 meter resolution, not usually publicly available. That's going to be more on like the 10-meter resolution kind of level. And then you can use the deep learning tools to either do like land cover classification or object detection for buildings and vehicles, as I said. So just a couple quick screenshots on that kind of shows you like what the land cover output would be, which is obviously something that I think is probably more resonant with environmentalists and climate work. So this product is something that you guys may be familiar with if you've been doing GIS work for that type of work. The building extraction and such is a little bit more esoteric, but it's still very applicable. And it's also something that whether it's a building or a vehicle, we're working on these techniques so that the hope is down the road we can provide deep learning tools for finding other things, right? And things that our customers are asking for, or that are of their interest, that can provide utility to most of our users. So those other applications, maybe for this audience, could be looking for oil spills or natural disaster work, or something of that like. It just depends what, it's in beta for us right now, so it depends what our users come back with what they need, what they're interested in doing with the deep learning tools. A little bit more on the vehicle detection stuff. So it's basically going through the imagery, identifying a vehicle with a bounding box, and it can work in, fairly rural areas or more suburban areas, and it can also work in very urban areas as well. So then even the deep learning aspects, even the deep learning tools have a fine tuning adjustment that users can do as they run the models and can tweak it as they get the results to improve the results. Um, and the future of the tools as far as what we're hoping to get to, like I said, we want to provide more models for training. We want to provide, more things to look for that our users are interested in. We're working on expanding our machine learning tools on the point cloud analysis to be more accurate and more flexible as well. And then the other thing that we're working on is providing all this in the cloud. We have some cloud offerings to date, and it's something that we've been working on diligently over the past few years in conjunction with this offering. So we hope to see this down the road because some of these learning models, they can, use really big data sets, and they need powerful machines to run. So you want to be able to ramp up your hardware and your storage for working with these kind of tools. So we're hoping to get to that in the next year or two. And I think that's about all I've got for what we're doing around machine learning and deep learning. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I'm going to start with a question from here. Um, so toward the end, you talked about different things that you're working on. And so my
Mhm.
question is, when the 60 of you decide what you want to work on, how much of that is based on uh, what the 60 of you are dreaming this could be a cool thing to add versus, oh, we've seen that the competition is coming out with this thing, and so we need to develop something because the competition's going to have it,
Mhm.
versus
Yeah.
maybe a third option being you have 15 customers who've all asked for something, and so it's more a response to the customer.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm not Steve Jobs. I don't have this vision of like I'm gonna make this, rounded Apple phone and like it's gonna take over the world. And that's not the way we approach development. It's definitely customer-driven software development for Blue Marble. So that's why like we're putting out these tools. A lot of them are beta. We want our users to bang on it and give us feedback. We do make decisions where we see where the industry is headed, and we make product development decisions that way, and guide our users towards, hey, LiDAR is coming. You're going to want this data. You're going to want to work with it. So, we do some of that, but a lot of what we do is really customer driven software development.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions from the audience that we want to ask? Because I have a bunch of other questions for Patrick, if not.
I see one in the chat. There's something in the chat. I'm not sure if that's a
Yeah.
question. Oh, no, that's
Yeah, that's just me asking if people have any questions.
gotcha. Gotcha.
When you think about us being in Maine, what's special about your location? How does that impact your company and how others see us?
Well, that's a good question. So for GIS software development and survey, Maine has a long history of survey and GIS, and it goes back to the Maine Forestry School and surveying and land management. And then even with companies like Delorme and some other mapping companies that have come along over the years. I'd like to think Blue Marble is one of them. We do have in GIS, we're known for having kind of some expertise in this area. As a software company, obviously, there's not a lot of software companies coming out of Maine. So I think what we offer our employees like a unique, you know, career in that they can work in technology and software and live in a place like Maine, which is a great place to live and to raise a family. So we've also historically been a company that's, yes, we did take some, some MTI grants way back in the day, but we've done organic growth and been profit driven. So we don't have any, venture capital or, it's not that kind of software company. So we try to accent that, that unique approach to what we do.
Yep, yep, yep. So the growth from 10 people to 60 people was mostly based on more customers wanting your and buying your services.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And when I came on board, we realized we had, like I said, we have like half of our customers are in the US and Canada, and the rest are all over the world. And so we started traveling, going to trade shows, visiting with customers. Today we go to trade shows all over the world, and we do training all over the world. So it's it's a great way to grow your business when you know that you've got a good user base, and so it takes time sometimes developing like that, especially as a small company, but that's how we've done it, kind of word of mouth, one user at a time. Maybe that will change down the road, but
Yeah, yeah. Without asking you to disclose confidential business information, uh, about what percentage of your revenues are domestic versus international?
that 50/50.
About 50-50. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
great. And that's a big, and you said that's a big change from a few years ago.
No, it's well, I'm not sure. We're only looking at that maybe about a decade ago. So but for at least 10 years now, we've had, kind of that even split between US, Canada, and the rest of the world.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And were there specific difficulties that you experienced during this growth phase?
Well, I
Was it
mean, like everyone else,
finding employees, or was it figuring out how new technologies
yeah.
might get brought in and applied to what you're doing, or was there something else?
I mean, first and foremost comes to mind when you ask that question is the pandemic, right? So we had that challenge, and that was a very concerning time for a business. You didn't know it was around the corner. But we made it through that. And, at the time we went all remote like everybody else. Today we have a hybrid schedule where folks remote a couple of days a week, and then a few times a week they're in the office. And we really believe in that, because even though maybe you're more efficient when no one's bothering you and you're working at home, there's something to be said about team building and talk around the water cooler, as it were, and the like. Other challenges that we've had is that, we are a small company and we compete against some really big companies in this space. If you do anything with GIS, you've heard of Esri or ArcGIS, and they're a much, much bigger company than us, and that's had its challenges. So we like to think that we're a complementary solution. We've had some offerings back in the day where we're moving into internet mapping solutions like Google Maps. And when Google Maps came along and their API was offered as free, no, basically open source, that really changed the trajectory of that offering for us, because it just
I can imagine that. Yep.
So there's been those kind of challenges, but overall it's more ups than downs.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what sort of ups do you want to see in the next 1 to 3 years?
We really want to do as much as we can with moving our offering to the cloud. So we've been doing some recruiting for those kind of folks from the development side. And we're very hopeful that we're going to have a successful rollout of our offering in the cloud. So we're hopeful that will be one of the ups. I think I did mention to you before we started, we're looking to expand our office space down in Southern Maine, where you have an office in Brunswick, and we're looking to double that space so that right now we have Hollowell and Brunswick, and some people would rather be working in Brunswick, but we just don't have the space for them. So we're hoping to, allow any of our employees that want to be centered out of the Brunswick or Freeport area that they can, and then, obviously for new hires and the like.
Yeah. Some people think about tech firms as hiring a very particular kind of person. Can you talk a little bit about the kinds of people that are working with you? Because they don't all have the same background, presumably.
Right. So in general, half of the company are software developers, and they have a very much, engineering software development background, right? But the rest of the company, many folks have a background in GIS. They've taken GIS courses, or they had maybe a major like environmental science where they did a lot of GIS. Um, but some of, folks from marketing might be more graphics background, or, myself, I actually have a master's in sociology, and though we did GIS before it was called GIS, it wasn't really a lot of that. But what I've always taken with technology, and what folks that are successful here in our company, is they're open to learning, and they're not afraid to ask questions. And so we really value people that want to share, that want to learn, because what we do is so technical sometimes. You just have to be okay with getting it wrong once in a while and not feeling like your head's going to be cut off. So I think for us, the people that are most successful are the people that want to learn and want to help others learn. And I know that sounds all hippy dippy, but it's just true. And that's what we look for. I do see that someone's asking about how we could apply for an internship. And we do have internships over the summer. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you could send an email to our HR department, which is hr@bluemarblegeo.com, bluemarblegeo.com. So yeah,
Great, great.
thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, that's it.
Are there other things about your own personal journey as the head of an entrepreneurial firm that you'd like to share? So, like at our last ones, the speaker talked about their heroes or their mentors, kind of a person that they'd like to emulate.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, for me, I don't know, I'm from Maine originally, and I eventually went to grad school in New Hampshire, and my wife and I lived in Massachusetts for a number of years. But we were able to come back to Maine, and I think that it's really important that we're always trying to do things to encourage people to want to come back and help develop the tech economy in Maine. I think that a lot of folks in Maine have a lot to offer, in the ways of like hard work and perseverance and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of been for me, a source of like what keeps me driving to make this company successful. Um, but as far as mentors and the like, it kind of goes to what I was talking about with the kind of people that we hire. I've worked in places and where there were people that were building empires and built walls around themselves so that you would never bother them. And I always felt like, they were just insecure about, like, I don't know, what they actually brought to the table and the value that they brought to the table. And so I've always tried to, again, build a place that is open to teamwork and to people of different backgrounds and that kind of thing, as much as we can.
Uh-huh. Great, great, yeah. So today's the first day of the work week for many because yesterday was a federal holiday for some. And so my question for you is, on the first day of the work week, it's morning. What's getting you excited about the upcoming week
Um,
in general? Not
in
this
gen
particular week, but in a general on a Monday.
Yeah. it's usually just what am I going to learn today? Like there's always something new that comes down the pike. And some weeks you're like, oh my gosh, what new thing is going to come over the wall? But in general, and it's always like, by the end of the week, I've like, oh, I didn't think I would be, you know, doing this analysis with the software, or I didn't think I would hear from this customer in this part of the world, or, that we would be coming up with this idea for how we can deliver training in Calgary, or so there's always something new that we learn, and as we interview folks and bring on new employees, we get asked that kind of question. It's something that I think everybody takes a lot of pride in, because there's never a dull moment, and there really is never a dull moment,
Yep.
but in a good way.
Yeah, some of those surprises are good, and all of a sudden there's a serendipitous connection that's going to create business, and sometimes all of a sudden you realize there's a huge fire that needs
Yeah,
to get put out.
yes, there can be fires, and in a small company, sometimes it's all hands on deck too, but that's okay. Once in a while, it keeps you on your toes.
Okay, well, great. Well, I think we're going to, unless you have some other things to add, I think we'll have a short webinar today.
Okay,
And
that's
I
fine.
appreciate your participation. Again,
Sure.
this program was recorded, and so it'll be shared with the broader community. We didn't have as many registrants as we had hoped, but hopefully going forward, the viewers online will learn and gain some knowledge from what you shared with us today.
Okay. Well, thank